Welcome to the Hope for Healing Network. This is Cecily Henderson. Thank you for joining us in this safe space today. I am very excited to introduce my next guest. He has just overcome so many obstacles, has such a loving heart. Andy, welcome to the Hope for Healing Network.
Cecily, I appreciate it. Glad to be here.
I am really excited to share your story. This is a hope talk, which the reason and purpose for Hope Talks is to give people hope from these very inspiring people that have overcome so much. So, if you wouldn't mind, Andy, just telling us a little bit about your story, what you went through, and then we'll kind of deep dive into what you're doing now.
Yeah, that sounds good. So back in 2007, I was overweight and just not feeling myself, and things were kind of slow and sluggish. And a supervisor where I worked said, "You know what? Let's train for a half marathon." And I thought she was absolutely out of her mind. But then I thought later on, well, no, that's probably good that I get back in shape and would give me something to work towards. And so I did it. I actually, within 5 months, dropped 50 pounds and ran a half marathon cold with no warming up because I got to the track late. But nonetheless, ran it. And then as I was training for a 10K, I was jogging around campus. And as I was jogging, I got hit from behind by a pickup truck. He was going about 45 miles an hour, 40 to 45 miles an hour, and struck me from behind. And I flew up and over his pickup truck. And unfortunately, my head broke my fall. So I had a lot of injuries from that.
Wow, I can't even imagine what you were going through at that time. I mean, and I mean, do you remember being hit? Do you remember any of it?
I remember being hit just like a flash. And then I remember hearing someone yelling and screaming for help. And what I've been told happened is I got up with a broken pelvis is broken in like five different spots, three to five different spots. And I tried to run because I was in shock. I tried to run away from the incident. And so the person who hit me got out of his pickup truck, sat on me practically, laid on top of me to get me down and called for help. And there was bystanders that called the 911 and got a ambulance over, and they lifted me up and into the ambulance and got me to a local hospital where I was treated for my injuries. And I was in the ICU for quite a while and in the hospital for about 3 to 4 weeks.
Wow. Oh my gosh. Did you have to? I mean, I bet they had to put you through physical therapy and all of that. Did what?
Speech, occupational, every day for 3 to 4 weeks, and then weekly after that.
Wow.
I also had a wheelchair because I had an unstable fracture of my pelvis. It was broken in so many spots that they said it couldn't heal unless I was completely immobile. So I had a powered wheelchair for 3 months.
Oh my goodness. Wow. I
They
that,
said that
I mean,
walking would be
gosh.
very difficult, if not impossible, for me, and without a huge limp. And I said, not going to happen. I'm going to bypass that and beat those odds.
Wow. And you did. You
Mm.
certainly did. I mean, how long did it take you before you could walk normally again?
About a year or 2 years until I could walk normally. And then even then I had reconstructive surgeries on my right knee because I had so much damage to it that things had pulled. They were mainly concerned about my head and neck area that they didn't look at my knee, and my knee had some damage to it.
Wow. That's a lot of things your body had to overcome and heal from. I mean, that's a
It was a
lot of
lot.
injuries.
Wouldn't have been able to do it without my parents, who I know are listening right now.
Thank you, mom
They,
and dad.
yeah, they were there for me through the worst of the worst and the best of the best. That's for sure.
That's so incredible. And I, as I think about, because I had when we were talking a little bit before the interview and we both have our stories. Yours is so traumatic with what you went through, but having that support from somebody really makes a difference.
Yeah.
Because you feel very alone sometimes when
Mm.
you are injured. I mean, what were you feeling after this? How was this affecting you mentally?
So at first, I felt very happy that people were coming to me, they were seeing me. But then, after the impact of my injury had wore off with people, and I was still in the hospital, people started to stray away. And I remember coming to the nurse with my wheelchair in the hospital in tears, asking if there was a happy pill that I could take because I just felt, gosh, awful about myself. I was suicidal. And I didn't say that I was suicidal, but I said I was just feeling horrible. And they just looked and said, "Oh, you poor thing, there's nothing we can do for you." And there's no mention of psychiatry at all until a year later.
Wow.
So
So
I was
you
going through the thick of it through with no medication for mental health needs.
for a whole
They
year.
didn't look at that.
So what did you do during that year with all those feelings? How did you deal and manage with that?
I toughed it out. I tried to do the best I could with what I had. I um, just dealt with it and figured it was something that I just had to power through. And I realized later on that powering through is actually the cause of a lot of my other injuries that I had because one time I did surgery on my knee and I got it to a point where my healing was plateauing. And so I went right back to the martial arts, and I had a kid in martial arts miss his kick and land right on my knee and take me out at the knee. And I was right back in the operating room within months.
Wow. So you were pushing through, trying to do your best, right? Putting your body more stress on your body, which actually caused more problems with your
Yeah,
injury. When did you figure out that, maybe pushing through was just too much? What was the moment that you figured that out?
probably about 2010 when I was jogging with a hairline fracture and popped my kneecap, my knee, my tibia out, broke it really bad. That's when I said, okay, enough's enough. I gotta stop. I'm doing way more damage to my body than what I need to do or than what it's able to go through. I
Yeah.
was in Madison going through graduate school. I actually graduated with two bachelor's degrees and a master's degree.
Wow. So when did you graduate? Did you graduate after your injury? Because you were,
I did.
so tell the audience how old, excuse me, how old you were. Because I was like, wow, that's really young. How old were you
Yeah.
when you got hit?
I was 21 years old when I had my accident. And then I graduated that was in 2007. And then I graduated from college in 2010 with my undergrad in music and then another undergrad in psychology. And then in 2012, I graduated with a degree in rehabilitation psychology with my master's.
Wow, that's incredible that you went back to school despite everything that you were going through and you just continued to educate yourself. And how did that help with your healing?
Helped tremendously because I kept my mind active. By keeping my mind active and by staying sharp mentally, even though I had a coup contra coup head injury, I was able through neurogenesis and neuroplasticity able to help my brain heal. I should mention that I'm also a therapist, a mental health counselor, trauma counselor. So I practice what I preach, and a lot of what I do has been informed by my own healing.
Wow. So yes, please tell the viewers what you're doing now to help people.
Yes. So I practice something called brain spotting, and hopefully that's something that we can talk about later on. But it's a practice that helps people with trauma recover from traumatic memories, traumatic incidents, whether it be physical, emotional, whatever it might be. Um, it helps them heal in different ways because the brain, when it experiences trauma, there's scar tissue formed in the brain, and things are held in trauma capsules. And what we do is we pop open the trauma capsules, release the trauma, and let it dissolve.
Well, and you said this is a relatively new type of therapy, right? Because I mean,
Yes.
I've heard of EMDR, I've heard of, somatic therapy and these
Mhm.
different types of modalities, but I've never heard of brain spotting.
So cool. It's something I learned about in 2021.
Oh, so you are now being trained to do this brain spotting,
Yep.
correct?
I've trained in all of the phases of brain spotting except for the fifth phase, and I am a brain spotting consultant in training right now.
Wow, so what are you planning on doing? You planning on opening your own practice or just doing it from home?
Practice, actually. That's something that I do have right now. I've owned my own practice for 3 years and it's going strong and life is good.
Wow. That's so
Yeah.
amazing. So what are your clientele? Who do you basically work the most with?
I work a lot with employee assistance companies. So when someone on the job is having some issues with work performance or work issues are affecting their job, they might come to me for some help. But now I'm seeing a lot more people with trauma because a lot of the work issues that are being experienced or anger issues sometimes are coming from trauma that happened developmentally in early ages. And so I'm working backwards and peeling the layers of the onion to try to get at what is the root.
I
And
love
we'll
that
peel the
analogy with the
root.
onion.
Yeah. I should mention though that during my time with healing and recovering from my brain injury and all the serious issues with the accident, I held a lot of malice in my heart, a lot of anger and resentment towards the person who hit me. But I had a rehabilitation psychologist that I worked with, that was my therapist at the time, and he helped me just see the value of working through my injuries, working through the mental toll that it took on me. And then I had a mentor, my sensei, my karate instructor at the time, taught me the power of forgiveness. And what I went to do is I emailed the person who hit me because he worked at my college campus. And I said, "Hey, I'd like to meet with you. harbor no ill will, but I feel that it would be good to just meet and clear the air with each other. Just make sure we can actually have a face-to-face conversation in a civil environment." And he said, "Come to my office." Surprisingly, I was shocked that he said yes. And I looked him straight in the eye and said, "I forgive you." And we both had a cry and hugged each other out and said, "We love you" to each other. And it was very emotional.
You're making me emotional because
Yeah.
I mean, what a healing experience when you can forgive someone that has really harmed you.
I
Such a
learned that,
healing thing for a
yeah.
person.
I learned that forgiveness is not just about healing the other person, but it's about healing and setting your own heart free as well. And so that's the message I want to give to your audience is to not let anger rule your heart. If you have had a serious illness or a serious injury to yourself or a serious condition that happened that was the fault of someone else, be willing to let go of that hatred.
Andy, you're such an amazing, incredible individual. And thank you for that beautiful message because I think we do need to hear that because harboring that in our heart can really damage us.
Yes. Hmm.
And that's such a beautiful message of hope. And
Yeah.
that's what we're trying to do is give people hope and
Yeah.
to be able to heal. And you are most certainly one of those people that is so inspiring with your story and everything that you've gone through. And you're still this incredible person filled with love and light and trying to help others. I mean, you're such an inspiration to me, and I'm so honored that you're here.
Thank you. I appreciate it, Cicely.
And I want viewers to know that, don't we don't want you to feel alone. We want you to know that you are important, you're loved. If you would like to reach out to Andy, what's the best way that people can get in touch with you if they want to connect?
You can email me and I can put my email in the reply in the message bar on this. Um, it's Andy at riseabovecounselingwi.com, but I'll put that in the message bar at the bottom of the screen.
Okay, perfect. Yeah. Anything if you do you have a website as well that people
Ooh,
can go?
yes, I'll put that as well and my phone number. I'll put all my contacts there.
Okay, perfect. Yeah. So please, we'll make sure we get everything in the comments if you'd like to connect with Andy, because obviously he understands, what people are going through and what trauma is. And I'm really excited to have you back on an expert talk to talk about the different modalities and different therapies that you are doing.
Yes, I would love to do that. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you, Andy. And again, thank you for watching. And we want you to know that there is always hope for healing. Andy, God bless. Thank you so much.
Bless. Thank you.